At Meals on Wheels SA, the safety of all of our workers is a very high priority. Whether you're a volunteer or one of our paid staff, we want to make sure that you go home at the end of your shift as safe and well as you were when you came in at the beginning of the day. That's not just a moral duty, it's also a legal obligation. This video presentation goes over the key safety messages for all of our workers at any of our sites and branches around South Australia. The systems, policies and procedures that we have for work health and safety at Meals on Wheels are based on the body of statutory law, and there's a very high standard that organisations are held to. If you've got any questions at all, please speak to a member of your branch committee or to your branch support officer, or call us at Central Office on 1800 854 453, and we'd be happy to provide clarification to any concerns or questions that you have. Thank you for watching this video presentation. Thank you for giving your time to Meals on Wheels, and most of all, stay safe by stopping and thinking about what it is that you're doing.
Work Health and Safety Overview. Work health and safety legislation places mutual obligations on both Meals on Wheels SA and our paid and voluntary workers in carrying out our respective roles and duties. Meals on Wheels South Australia provides appropriate orientations, inductions, training, equipment and protective clothing such as aprons, eye protection, etc., as well as an environment that is safe and healthy. Voluntary workers, like paid workers, are required to comply with reasonable direction in the workplace in the interests of safety. We all need to use office, kitchen and delivery equipment safely and according to instructions, and of course use the protective equipment and clothing provided. You are now asked to follow the rest of the sections in this presentation, and please ask questions should there be any area you do not fully understand. The term fit for work refers to the need to make sure that every paid and voluntary worker at Meals on Wheels SA is in the right physical and psychological state to enable them to not only perform tasks allocated to them in a competent manner, but also in such a way that what they do does not threaten their safety, health or well-being of others. All workers at Meals on Wheels SA have a duty of care to be aware of their own fitness for work and will be asked to sign in on a Fit for Work register each time they are rostered on. Open communication is imperative. If any worker believes that there may be a concern regarding another worker's fitness for work based on their behaviour only, then they need to let their branch supervisor or manager at Central Office know of the situation. For example, a volunteer notices another being overly forgetful, leaving stoves on in the kitchen, running stop signs or missing clients on their driving route, depending on the specific details of the actual event. By making others aware of what is happening, could possibly save someone from injuring themselves or others. Meals on Wheels South Australia encourages all to be able to raise any concerns regarding an issue of fitness for work. This may be done in a confidential manner so that any issues can be dealt with before they possibly escalate into something more serious. Meals on Wheels South Australia appreciates that many workers give long and outstanding service to the organisation. However, this can never cancel out the need to follow proper work health safety practice. It may not lead to a worker being dismissed, simply they may need to have tasks reallocated or support put in place to make life safer and easier for all. Risk assessment. How we identify and report hazards at the worksite. It is up to every worker to report a hazard in the workplace. It might be a spill, a cracked path, or a broken step at a client's home. To assist you in identifying a hazard so that it may be reported, at Meals on Wheels SA we manage work health and safety at the worksite by following the general principles of risk management. We identify the hazard, we assess the risk that may result from the hazard, we decide on control measures, we implement control measures, and we monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of these control measures. So that we are clear, let's spend a moment on hazards and risks. Some definitions might help. A hazard is something with the potential to cause harm, and a risk is the chance of harm resulting from a particular hazard. Noting that the risk reflects both the likelihood and the consequences. There are a variety of hazards that may or may not face us in our tasks at Meals on Wheels SA. The main groups of hazards include physical, including the environment, gravity, things can drop, kinetic energy, things that feel the force of a chopping blade, mechanical energy, things that are driven by a motor or gears, hazardous chemicals, things that sting, burn or cause damage to a surface, thermal energy, things that cause burns. Extremes of temperature can cause food to spoil, for example. Sound can hurt or damage the ears. Biological, things that can cause sickness and even death. Electrical, causes shock, burns, or even death. Vibration, things can move off a bench, move off their mountings, and cause harm. It is important for us to consider, estimate, and evaluate the level of risk that is faced from a potential hazard. We simply cannot avoid absolutely everything and every activity in our daily life, nor can we ignore hazards. So we need to make an evaluation of the hazards we face, so that we may manage them appropriately and minimise harm. We use a simple consequence scale to evaluate hazards into a simple order. 1. Catastrophic, where death, disability, permanent injury may occur. 2. Major, where significant injury, but not permanent, may occur. 3. Moderate, where an injury may require medical treatment. 4. Minor, where an injury might need first aid only and there is no significant lost time. 5. Insignificant, where there are no injuries anticipated to occur. To provide some balance, we also need to review the likelihood of an injury being caused, so we use the likelihood scale. 1. Almost certain an injury may be expected to occur unless we take action. 2. Likely an injury will probably occur at some time unless we take action. 3. Possible an injury might occur at some time unless we take action. 4. Unlikely an injury could occur at some time unless we take action. 5. Rare an injury may occur but probably never will if we take action. To make the task simpler in the workplace, and even at home in the kitchen or workshop, we can use a simple chart. We review the likelihood of the scale down the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side we list a scale of consequences. You can see clearly in the example that if the likelihood of something happening is almost certain in most occasions, and the result would be catastrophic, then clearly this would have the highest rating, 4A. 4 is the highest level, and A stands for acute. So this tells us we must act now, immediately, pay immediate attention. We are sure you can imagine some examples. An open bottle of bleach on a shelf above the brat pan is one we can think of. Try and think of one yourself. The action chart gives us a clear guide on what we should do and when. Whilst most volunteer workers will receive guidance and advice from others, it is vital that we all have an understanding of risk assessment in our shared endeavour for a safe workplace. Hazardous manual tasks, lifting and carrying safely. Some manual tasks can be hazardous. Lifting and carrying are often regular tasks for volunteers. Following the right procedures will help avoid injury. Heavy loads should be avoided. If possible, they should be made into smaller loads. If the load cannot be reduced, it should then be lifted by using a lifting aid, such as a trolley or sack truck wherever this is feasible and available. If you have to lift, use a trolley or sack truck to move the heavy items around the kitchen. Only lift items you feel comfortable with or seek the help from someone else. 2 people should always lift the hot boxes into cars. Share the load. Where manual handling is unavoidable, use the following manual task techniques. Size up the load and seek help, or use a lifting aid such as a trolley or sack truck if necessary. Position your feet close to the object to be lifted. Bend your knees, keep your back straight, and grip the object securely. Take a deep breath, keep your head erect, and lift by straightening your legs. Keep your arms in and your elbows and knees slightly bent. Avoid twisting. Keep the object close to your body when carrying it, and avoid twisting your back. When lowering the load, reverse this procedure, keeping your back straight. If you need more information about lifting and carrying, please talk to your volunteer coordinator or kitchen coordinator. Slips, trips, and good housekeeping for safety. Meals on Wheels South Australia's voluntary and paid workers need to be informed about the importance of safely managing things like spills, damaged floors, or client stairs to reduce the risk of slips and trips. We find that slips, trips, and falls account for a large percentage of incidents while on duty for Meals on Wheels South Australia, in a wide range of situations from kitchens to offices to clients' homes on deliveries. The best way to avoid slips and trips is to minimise the risk of them occurring in the first place by identifying hazards, assessing any risks, and eliminating or controlling the risks. A common cause is rushing, so take your time and be aware of the environment around you. Another of the key preventative measures we can use in our daily routine in our work sites is the identification of hazards, assessment of risks, and then applying good housekeeping through appropriate maintenance and cleaning. For example, cleaning procedures will be reviewed regularly to ensure that housekeeping and cleaning are performed to an appropriate standard. All relevant workers will be trained in the appropriate policy and procedures. Cleaning tasks will be clearly defined, including an appropriate sequencing of work, so that the cleaners themselves are not put at risk by walking unnecessarily over wet surfaces. Cleaning tasks will be undertaken at an appropriate time and not during high traffic and busy periods. Cleaning materials will be compatible with the floor surfaces and provide appropriate slip resistance. Wet cleaning will be performed outside normal operating hours wherever possible. Otherwise, barriers and warning signs will be set up to keep people off of the affected areas. It is important to manage spills safely to avoid the risk of slipping. If required, after assessment of the spill with the most senior person on site, and if it is safe to do so, clean the spill up without delay. If the spill is of a dangerous nature, for example, caustic chemical, refer to safety data sheet for spill management. We must ensure that the worksite policy and procedures for cleaning up spills clearly identifies who is responsible for isolating a spill and cleaning it up without delay. We should also ensure there is easy access to equipment and materials for cleaning up spills. If supplied, ensure all workers are appropriately informed of the use of the spills kit. Appropriate signage is to be erected to warn others of the hazard. In summary, we must pay particular attention to the following: floors and grounds, housekeeping and cleanliness, cleaning and maintenance methods, appropriate lighting, stairs, ramps and sloping surfaces, walkways, tasks being undertaken, and of course, appropriate footwear, not only in a branch, but in a delivery situation too. Safely working at height. Don't. A common work or home accident in Australia today involves ladders and working at height. Voluntary or paid workers will only undertake work at height using approved steps or small step ladders when appropriately trained. Chairs and other items must not be used to stand on to reach high places. Only approved step ladders or step boxes which do not exceed 1 metre in height may be used by workers when accessing items stored at height. Any other ladders or work platforms can only be used by approved contractors, not by any Meals on Wheels SA worker. The use of safety harnesses will be considered where appropriate for use by approved contractors. All ladders should be industrial grade, not domestic grade, must not exceed 1 metre in height, and shall be designed, constructed, used and maintained in accordance with relevant Australian standards, AS NZS 1892 Series 1 to 5. Wherever step ladders are required to provide access to places where people need to work, they shall be provided and properly maintained. Simple rule, nothing over 1 metre. Using storage racks and shelving safely. To provide a safe working environment, Meals on Wheels SA will only use racking and shelving that is installed correctly. This is so as not to cause any movement or instability when workers are storing or retrieving items. We will use commercial shelving and racking systems that meet prescribed Australian standards that are restrained to a wall or bolted to the floor. All racking and shelving must be inspected every 3 months and not overloaded when used. Safe use of equipment. To ensure we have safe workplaces, everyone is required to use any equipment in accordance with any use or operating instructions and training given by Meals on Wheels SA. Workers shall use and operate equipment in a safe manner at all times, taking reasonable care for the safety of others and using appropriate health and safety measures. Items such as guards will be used at all times. No one will interfere with, remove or render any safety measures so that they become ineffective. Covering safety signs and deactivating safeguards are simple examples. Any worker shall immediately inform their worksite supervisor, coordinator on duty, branch support officer, or any other supervisor or manager of any faults found with operating equipment. For example, workers should report faulty control switches, missing safeguards, bare or frayed wires, etc. Workers shall not misuse any equipment, especially not using it for any purpose for which it was not designed. For example, do not exceed safe working loads or quantities with mixers. As well as taking reasonable care with equipment, we should remember that misusing it or failing to use it in a safe manner could result in disciplinary procedures. Safety with electricity. Electricity, if not managed properly, can kill. Workers will not tamper with any electrical equipment no matter how minor the problem may be perceived. Those not qualified or licensed as electricians must not attempt any repairs whatsoever. Any electrical faults must be reported immediately to the Contracts and Services Officer at Central Office. The responsibility of workers around electricity includes not interfering with any marker label on electrical appliances or with the tagging procedure used as a safety control by approved persons, ensuring that appliances are set up correctly and used safely, not repairing, modifying or interfering with electrical appliances, notifying supervisors when appliances are due for inspection, retest according to the date shown on their marker label of an electrical appliance, not using appliances if the due for inspection or retest date has expired, and when becoming aware that an appliance or associated wiring may be in a dangerous condition, they must immediately turn the appliance off, unplug the appliance if possible, and notify their worksite supervisor or coordinator on duty, the branch support officer, or any other supervisor or manager on duty immediately, who will contact the Contracts and Services Officer at Central Office. Safe use of chemicals. Meals on Wheels SA workers have a responsibility to familiarise themselves with the safety data sheets for all chemicals that we may be required to work with, so that we follow instructions given in order to safely handle, use and store hazardous chemicals, use the personal protective equipment provided, attend chemical safety training sessions including the use of personal protective equipment as required, and apply the training given in the handling, use and storage of hazardous chemicals and personal protective equipment. Personal protective equipment for your safety. Meals on Wheels SA has a duty to provide personal protective equipment to workers at their work sites. Workers must wear the appropriate personal protective equipment that is provided, attend any training provided regarding its use and not misuse it in any way. The Facilities and Food Service Manager will determine the approved personal protective equipment and supply list for Meals on Wheels SA. The Contracts and Services Officer will maintain a catalogue of approved personal protective equipment and approved suppliers. Branch committees, coordinators and supervisors are authorised to purchase approved personal protective equipment required for their work sites within financial delegations. Personal protective equipment for contractors, subcontractors or their employees is the responsibility of their employer. Our duty as a worker says that we must, so far as we are reasonably able, use or wear the equipment in accordance with any information, training or reasonable instruction at our worksite. We must not intentionally misuse or damage the equipment, and we must inform the supervisor or coordinator on duty, the branch support officer or any other supervisor or manager on duty of any damage to, defect in, with or need to clean or decontaminate any of the equipment of which we become aware. Policies, procedures and the volunteer handbook for every volunteer worker has details on appropriate clothing, footwear and any personal protective equipment required. Purchasing of safe equipment and chemicals. Any chemicals or equipment required to be purchased for a worksite or branch must be approved by the Facilities and Food Service Manager. The Facilities and Food Service Manager or delegate must be notified of the purchase of all electrical equipment, regardless of the cost, so that it may be placed on the Meals on Wheels SA register, tested and tagged according to the current legislative requirements. There is a list of approved chemicals for purchase. Any new chemicals being purchased for any worksite of Meals on Wheels SA must be approved by the Facilities and Food Service Manager or delegate prior to purchase. Replacing Meals on Wheels SA kitchen equipment is primarily the responsibility of the Facilities and Food Service Manager. We suggest that you first discuss with your branch support officer your requirements. They will assist you and liaise with Central Office. Branch committee members and kitchen coordinators are also authorised to purchase some plant and equipment for kitchen use, in certain approved circumstances after confirmation with the branch support officer. Safe management of emergencies and critical incidents. Meals on Wheels SA has an emergency and critical incident management policy, as well as a management plan to ensure that we manage any emergency safely and promptly. These documents are available at all Meals on Wheels SA sites and emphasise the importance of the following: Prevention as far as possible through appropriate planning. Preeminent concern for clients, volunteers, paid workers, and community safety. Promptly engaging the emergency management team at central office when necessary. Promptly and accurately reporting to people within Meals on Wheels SA. Enabling operations not affected to continue efficiently. Meals on Wheels SA has a policy regarding bushfire risk and safety awareness. This is to ensure the safety of voluntary and paid workers during bushfire seasons, and to ensure clients are aware of service impact on such days and able to plan ahead for such events. Meals on Wheels SA also has a policy regarding heatwave protection and survival. This is to aid the safety and welfare of volunteers, paid workers and clients, to mitigate the possible adverse effects of heatwaves. To report an incident or to receive a copy of the emergency plan for your particular branch, talk to your supervisor or manager, branch support officer, or contact central office on 1800 854 453. Should an emergency or critical incident occur, once resolved, volunteers, paid workers, and others involved will be debriefed. Counselling and other support services will be offered and provided as required. Remember, people come first. This is the preeminent concern at Meals on Wheels SA. Motor vehicle incidents. Our voluntary and paid workers cover a lot of miles in motor vehicles in the course of undertaking their tasks, and sometimes accidents can happen. Voluntary workers who have an accident will need to claim on their own insurance. However, Meals on Wheels SA will pay any excess up to $1,000. If you receive a personal injury as a result of an accident, then you will need to be aware of the procedures outlined in the following section. Incident reporting. Under Meals on Wheels SA's insurance policies, voluntary workers are covered for personal accidents while they are engaged in their work with Meals on Wheels. If you are unfortunately involved in an incident or accident in the course of your Meals on Wheels SA duties, you need to report the incident immediately to your supervisor or coordinator on duty, the branch support officer, or any other supervisor or manager. Please complete an incident report form, or you can make a verbal report to your supervisor. The branch committee must ensure a completed form is sent to central office. If you have incurred costs due to damage to your vehicle or medical expenses, you can request an accident claim form, personal form. These are available at branches or from the corporate services team at central office. Contact the corporate services team if you need advice on how to complete and submit the form. You can free call 1800 854 453. Send any accounts received for medical expenses to the corporate services team. Out-of-pocket expenses associated with an accident, for example taxi fares to a health practitioner or medication, may also be covered, but receipts need to be provided. Let's recap. Report the incident using the incident report form or by telling your supervisor. Ensure a completed incident report form is sent to central office. It is important to register the incident. A committee member or branch support officer can assist with this. Contact corporate services if you need to make a claim for financial reimbursement or need advice on how to fill in the claim paperwork. If you received any medical attention, please send expense receipts to corporate services. Housekeeping and safety around the workplace. Good housekeeping means ensuring there is a place for everything and everything is in its place. A neat, orderly worksite ensures fewer accidents, helps keep access clear, prevents slips, trips and falls, and maintains good hygiene standards. Meals on Wheels SA is committed to providing resources to voluntary and paid workers to ensure housekeeping standards are monitored and maintained. Meals on Wheels SA recognises that housekeeping is a continual process that requires positive contribution by everyone in the worksite. This not only applies in kitchens, in the branch or indeed home office. A correct workstation setup, along with correct posture and regular breaks, will help minimise the potential for discomfort or injury. Smoke-free. Meals on Wheels SA promotes a smoke-free environment at all sites. Specifically, this includes volunteer delivery vehicles whilst delivering meals and all Meals on Wheels SA buildings. You can refuse to enter a client's home if you think you will be affected by tobacco smoke. We will provide or nominate a designated smoking area at sites. This will be an area that is designed so that tobacco smoke from the area does not enter any other part of the worksite, does not constitute a breach of legislation, and is not in view of Meals on Wheels SA visitors. We will ensure that a notice is displayed to workers and visitors to the effect that smoking by workers and/or visitors is prohibited at the worksite. Client information materials will advise that workers may decline to enter their home or provide services whilst the client is smoking. At any appropriate occasion, we will reinforce a prohibition of smoking in the workplace other than in designated smoking areas. Alcohol and drugs in the workplace. Meals on Wheels SA is committed to providing a safe, healthy and productive workplace for all. We believe that the use or effects of alcohol and/or drugs by a voluntary or paid worker affects a person's capacity to perform their duties and can be a contributing factor in incidents and near misses in the workplace. Voluntary or paid workers cannot be affected by alcohol or drugs. This includes prescription and over-the-counter medication that may affect your ability to do the job safely. If you think that this might apply to you at any time, please see the branch support officer or other Meals on Wheels SA representative to discuss. Therefore, you are responsible to fully cooperate with Meals on Wheels SA to successfully implement this policy. You are responsible to notify your supervisor when taking prescribed medication or an over-the-counter medication which may adversely affect your work performance or endanger the health and safety of others. You are responsible to ensure that during work hours, other than authorised functions, that no tasks are undertaken with a blood alcohol content of more than 0.05%. Persons with safety-sensitive positions shall not consume alcohol within 12 hours of commencing work and shall maintain a 0% blood alcohol content. No illicit drugs or alcohol are to be consumed at the worksite. No alcohol or illicit drugs are to be distributed and no alcohol or illicit drugs are to be found in possession. You are responsible to ensure that you or others do not bring or attempt to bring alcohol or illicit drugs into the workplace. You are responsible to, at the direction of Meals on Wheels SA, participate in an alcohol and other drugs test performed by a designated medical practitioner in the event that you are involved in a worksite incident. Violence and aggression in the workplace. Meals on Wheels SA is committed to a safe workplace where all workers feel comfortable to go about their duties without undue pressure from inappropriate behaviour. If at any time you feel threatened by the behaviour of a client and/or another worker, remove yourself from the situation and report it as soon as safe to do so. You can ring a committee member, your branch support officer, or central office. Workplace bullying is a pattern of behaviour that demeans, threatens, intimidates, or humiliates a person in the workplace. It can be intimidating, offensive, or degrading, and involve the psychological, emotional, social, or physical harassment of one person by another. We have zero tolerance to violence and aggression in the workplace. We advise all workers that if for some reason you need to be working alone, you make sure you are able to contact others in the case of an emergency. For example, access to a mobile phone. Always delivering in pairs to a client's home is another precaution to support your safety. If something just doesn't feel right, trust yourself and remove yourself from the situation. Visitors. Meals on Wheels SA understands that from time to time, all sites will need to receive visitors. They may be prospective volunteers, contractors, or guests at a social occasion. To make sure that visitors are safe at all times, visitors must be accompanied by a Meals on Wheels SA representative at all times. They must also sign into the visitors book and be advised of the safety rules of the branch. Visitors leaving Meals on Wheels SA premises are required to sign out using the visitor log and record the time of departure. The process for regular visitors is as follows. We must formally advise the visitor of those areas where they may visit, such as not past the bench. We must provide the visitor with a guideline of our safety rules that must be observed at all times whilst on our premises, such as personal protective equipment like hairnets. Instruct them that on each visit to the worksite, they will be required to sign in the visitor's book held in the administration area of that site. The condition of entry for regular contractors is detailed in the Work Health and Safety Policy and Procedures Manual, and for casual visitors, All casual visitors must report to a senior person on duty, supervisor, or authorised delegate. Casual visitors must be accompanied at all times by a Meals on Wheels SA worker to ensure that they do not enter dangerous areas and that they can be escorted out of the premises in the event that there is an evacuation or emergency. Worker responsibilities. If a worker observes a visitor walking through the back of house areas unaccompanied, they are required to personally escort the visitor back to the administration area where the visitor's host will be contacted. Please remember our visitors should an emergency arise. The first and last word on safety. This presentation was designed to give you a solid overview of the way we approach, manage and review health and safety at Meals on Wheels SA. It is up to each paid and voluntary worker to take the time to familiarise themselves with the processes, policies and procedures we have and use to make sure that we stay safe. Should anyone have a matter that they would like to seek clarification on, then they are encouraged to speak with their supervisor or coordinator on duty, the branch support officer or any other supervisor or manager, or they can call central office on 1800 854 453. From the time you arrive to sign in for your allocated tasks and duties, until the time you finish having made a difference to people's lives, all we ask is, stay alert and don't get hurt.